Um, so God said to me in 2019, yeah, He said to me that there are 6 areas of every woman's life that if she can master them, she will become a wow version of herself. And a healthy woman makes healthy choices. What that means is that if you're a healthy person, chances are you'll make the right choice in marriage, you'll make the right choice in career. When I mean healthy, I don't just mean physically, I mean spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Okay? Most of the crises that I've had to deal with as a counselor are people who are unhealthy. When I say they're unhealthy, they don't have a healthy perception of themselves. So they don't have any value for themselves. So they settle for anything that they're given, even crumbs. So if you do not love yourself, you don't know yourself, you would drink anything that is offered to you. So a man who shouldn't be worthy of you, you would make him a king in your life, and he will mess up what you've handed over to him. So the 6 areas that I think every woman really needs to look into. First of all, the first one is your womanhood, your identity as a woman. The second thing is your ministry as a woman. What are you called to do? The third thing is your marriage. The fourth thing is the people who speak in your life. Who are your mentors? Who are the people you are mentoring? The fifth one is money. Money. A lot of women make poor choices because they have to stay where the money is. And the last thing is motherhood. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to ask you these 6 questions. We're going to talk about them, and then I will let you ask the questions that you may have so that I may be able to, deal with specific things. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, who are you? Who are you? And I need you to take maybe a minute to think about that. Who are you when you are not a Mrs.? If we take the Mrs. out of your name, who are you? Who are you if nobody's calling you mommy? Jesus was so clear on this. In fact, he was so clear on it that he wanted the people around him to also be clear about his identity. He asked, who do men say that I am? Because people will try to define you, especially as a woman. This is not what you are supposed to do. I was in a meeting just before we came in, and I was having a conversation with 3 amazing women doing great things. And one of them was saying, I'm not feminist. I'm not interested in fighting to be a man. I love being a woman. I'm very feminine. There's nothing tough about me. I'm very tender. I'm very gentle. And then the other lady said to her, I don't agree that you're not tough. You can't say to me that you're soft. You're tough. It takes being tough to do the things that you do. So don't say that you are all woman. There's something tough like a man. And then I said to her, why do we ascribe being tough to manliness? I think that has been the problem over the years, that we do not want to agree that a woman can be tough. If you've ever been into a labor room and you've pushed a baby out of you, you are tough. And that has nothing to do with being a man. That's a very feminine virtue. Strength. When the Bible talks about the Kail woman, that's the virtuous woman. That word is actually a military term. It's like being equipped with everything an army is equipped with. And that's not ascribed to a man, it's ascribed to a virtuous woman. So when she said, I said the real problem is that we have not been able to define womanhood. We have allowed people define it for us. So I'm asking you tonight, who are you? You have to understand your personality. This will drive a lot of the things that you will do in your life. It will drive the relationships you allow in your life. It will drive the kind of person you marry. Interestingly, opposites attract. So if you don't understand the kind of person you are, and you don't understand the concept of what marriage is supposed to do for you, you will marry someone who is perfect for you and complain them out of your lives. So for instance, I'll give you an example, my husband and I. My husband is very extroverted, very. And I'm completely, in fact, when I do psychoanalysis tests, all those tests that tell you your personality, I always come up 100% introverted. 100%. Not 99, not 98. 100%. Which means that I would rather be curled up in my bed right now under a duvet than be with human beings. That's how introverted I am. Now, because my husband is extroverted, he needs people around him. And when you first get married, or because opposites attract, it's such a beautiful quality. Oh, he likes people. Oh, how is he so comfortable around people? Oh, he's such a talker. Oh, thank God he talks because I don't really have anything to say. Then a few months after that, opposites start to frustrate. He begins to irritate you. Because why is he so messy? Why is he so talkative? Why can't you just stay indoors? You're literally outside all the time. Why are you so energetic? Can't you rest? Can't you stop? You start with all the can't yous and you start fighting. But you see, if you can survive that season and understand that what God is trying to do is use those weaknesses of you not liking people, and he's bringing your husband's strength of loving people. If you can endure that frustration and move into the next sweet spot, right, where you now begin to exchange. So now, even though originally I was not the kind of person who liked people, now I find myself in situations where I'm among people and I'm actually beginning to enjoy them. I'm enjoying conversations, I'm enjoying relationships, I'm beginning to understand the value of them. Now imagine if I didn't patiently wait through the frustration stages. I'll give you many examples. When I got married, my husband was what we call, because you also have money personalities. Okay? So my husband is what you call a spender. No, my husband is a big spender. Doesn't fall into the category of spender. It's a big spender. And I'm a saver. I don't understand how someone can spend all that they have. It just never makes sense. I don't think it will ever make sense to me, but it just never made sense to me. So imagine being a saver and being married to a spender. Imagine, I love the fact that he could just, spend money, live large. My husband believes in let's enjoy life. Life is for living. All this saving yourself. What if Jesus comes tomorrow? Who gets the money? And initially, it seemed like a very nice thing until it began to frustrate me. Because from the minute we met, we had a joint account, which was our agreement. All our money would be together. And I'm saving, he's spending. And he's buying unreasonable things. My husband will go out and buy a dog and come back and tell me. And I'll say, okay, you came back with 2 dogs. Why didn't you buy one? Because if one is lonely, he will die. I'm like, that made sense to you? Like, yes. And he can sell, like I said, because he's extroverted, so he can sell ice to an Eskimo. My husband would tell me, I'll give you a perfect example. First time we moved into our home, my husband said to me, I understand that quality time is your love language. And I enjoy being with you. But I also like to play pool. So I feel like if we buy a pool table, I'll be able to play with the guys, but I will still be spending time with you, which is my focus. Everybody wants that. So I said, okay, let's buy the pool table. So we bought the pool table. Now what I didn't calculate was, where would we put it? So he came and said, oh, you see, we can't put it in the parlor because it's going to spoil the look of the parlor. So what we need to do, honey, let's build something outside. You see, we're spending more money, right? But he's not coming at me and saying, I won't spend money. He always has a way of making it about me. Because, if you really don't, we can sell it and I can start going out too. I'm like, no. I enjoy the fact that, because I can just play with the boys a bit, then come in, just kiss you, hang out with you, and then I'll just go back again. It's you, I'm thinking about you. And truly, he wasn't trying to be manipulative. He really was thinking about me, but this was just another avenue to waste money. So we built the thing. Now, unfortunately, you are not God. In Nigeria, rain can fall from any direction. So they built it in a way that rain coming this way, it wouldn't hit the pool table. But there are days that God decided rain should come from this way. And so he spoiled the felt of the pool table. And my husband said to me, oh, it's bad. We have to buy another one. That's the kind of spending I'm talking about. I remember he traveled one day and came. No, he even traveled. He went somewhere far and came back with a South African boabo. And told me he bought the dog because he got a good deal. A good deal compared to what? What were we negotiating for before? And these were the things that I was so shocked by it, that a human being can just live. And then I would say to him, we have to save for the rainy day. And he would say to me, it's God that brings rain, it's God that brings money. Why are we worried? God will take care of the rain and the money. I see the spenders in the room. They said yes, so. But what I realized also was that I had an unhealthy approach to money as well. I would save so much, I wasn't spending anything. And so the balance, so you see, I could complain and destroy my marriage, or I could balance it out and realize that this person is bringing something into my life that I didn't already have. So that's why I said that understanding yourself is the first step to anything, whether marriage, money, whatever. Understanding yourself. So I ask you again, who are you? And I must say this, marriage does not define you. Christ does. Marriage does not define you. We have taught it so much in the church. We have emphasized so much that even young girls are missing out on the season of singleness, which is such a beautiful season. Half of the girls in church they are single, but they want to get married. So they are not enjoying their single phase. They are focused on getting married. But there's a season where you travel. There's nothing as hard as traveling with children. I should know I did it. You have 3 children under 10 and you're dragging everybody at the airport. There's a season where all my 3 children were under 5. And I was just confused. You strap them. I remember when I saw this backpack that has the leash, thank you. And I was much younger, and I thought to myself, how would anybody buy this? That's the arrogance of youth. How would anybody buy this? How would you leash your children as if I had 3. I had 3. I had 3, I'm telling you. And another reason why I'm asking you who are you is because your design determines your outcome. You must understand yourself. Oh, it's something that, you see, the Bible tells us something. And I mean, we preach this a lot, especially in churches where we talk about being born again. Nicodemus went to Jesus. The day I saw that scripture with the light I'm about to show you now, it changed my entire life. Nicodemus went to Jesus and said, Rabbi, nobody can do the things you do except God is with him. And Jesus said to him, it's not about doing. He said, except a man be born again. So the fact that I am born by God is what determines what I do. So it's not what I do that determines that God is with me. So Jesus was saying to him, you have to settle the matter of identity first. That's what now attracts everything else. If you understand that you are the daughter of the Most High God, that you are a queen in your own right, you will not marry anything less than you deserve. The reason why we marry, for lack of a better word, rubbish as women, is because we think that is what we deserve. And it starts with your identity. You do not know who you are, so you do not know what you deserve. You don't know what you're entitled to. So I'll ask you again, who are you? Who are you when there's no Mrs. to your name? Who are you when nobody's calling you mommy? Who are you? The second question I'm going to ask you is, what are you sent here to do? What's your assignment? There has to be more to you than just marriage. There has to be more to you than just money. There has to be more. I believe every woman is called to a ministry. The issue is you have to find it. It may not be a pulpit ministry, it may not be a preaching ministry, but you're called to something. One day I was thinking about great men of God who had done great things. And then I was thinking of Billy Graham. I think it was that the season where he just passed. And they were doing a lot of documentaries, if you can remember at that time. There were lots of documentaries being done on him and telling his story and everything. And I was just thinking to myself, this man, he would stand in stadiums preaching the gospel, preaching to presidents, preaching to the queen. He did so much. And I asked myself, I said, who was his mother? Who was his mother? She probably raised him without the complete knowledge of who she was raising. Now that's ministry. But some women will tell you that if you don't hold a mic in your hand, that you are not a minister of the gospel. I beg to differ. I believe that some of us are called to raise godly seed. And that is a ministry. I believe some of us are called to just intercede over our husbands. That's a ministry. I believe it. I don't even believe every pastor's wife is called to pulpit ministry. I don't believe it. I believe that your first assignment is to be the wife of the pastor, to wife him. I believe that that's your first assignment. And so when I say, what are you called to do? What are you sent to do? Usually people begin to think ministry in terms of, oh, I have to go to the nations, I have to do missions. No. Sometimes your assignment is an assignment that is just quiet. Nobody else but you and God understands it. Look at Jael. Deborah was a prophetess. She was a judge. She was a wife. I assume she was a mother, even though it wasn't mentioned. And she was obviously a strategist, because when she called for Barak to go, he said, except you go with me. Because he needed counsel, needed advice. But look who God used to win the battle. A stay-at-home mom, who the only thing she knew was hospitality and how to set up a tent and bring down that tent. Sometimes I think about it, what if she had not practiced bringing down, using the hammer and the nail, if she had not practiced it well? Because the Bible says with one fell swoop, he hit, what's his name now, Sisera in his head, and he died instantly. If she had missed it, and he held her hand, her generation unborn would be dead. But she knew one thing, and she used that thing she knew. She used hospitality. She didn't go and pick up a sword. She took a glass of milk. He said, I want water. She said, water? I can do better than that. I'll give you milk. She gave him milk and covered him, and he slept. He relaxed. Hospitality. There are some people, he was so comfortable, he forgot he was at war. He forgot he was running. Because this woman understood the assignment. She didn't go outside to be trained with a sword. She knew that this is what I know and this is how I'm going to use it. What's in your hand, God can use it. He doesn't need to put a mic in your hand. What's in your hand, God can use it. And truly, I'm tired of women just thinking all I'm called to do is just marry. No, there's so much greatness on the inside of you. So much. So much. A stay-at-home mom. She didn't see it coming. Sometimes the reason why you don't recognize what's in your hand is because you've taken it for granted. It's something you find easy to do. That's why you don't pay any mind to it. So the first question is, who are you? Second question is, what are you sent to do? The third question is going to be one of the most important questions you ask yourself. Who are you sent to do it with? If you are called to marriage, and I believe not everyone will get married. I don't believe everyone is called to marriage. But if you are called to marriage, then you have to learn how to do it right. By first picking. I hear a lot of women fight about submission, and this is my take on the issue. Submission is never the issue. It's selection. Submission always starts with selection. If you pick right, if you pick a man that loves you, a man that pampers you, A man that every decision he makes is for your good. There's nothing he will tell you to do that you won't do. I'm telling you, there's nothing. You see, we don't really have a problem with submission. We have a problem with who we are submitting to. How many of you drive in the room? How many of you drive? Can I see your hand? Thank you. How many of you have gotten to a traffic light and the light turned red and you said, me, submit to this stupid, this is an inanimate object. How can it tell me what to do? How many of you will run that red light? Nobody. So you have a problem with submission. You have a problem with the person you are submitting to. And I have a problem with the fact that you chose someone you cannot submit to. And that's why I said it all starts with identity. If you know who you are, you will know who to pick. You won't marry somebody you can't respect. You won't marry somebody you can't trust his decisions. You won't marry somebody who won't look out for you. So, who are you sent to do whatever you are sent to do it with? Who is the person? That's what you need to ask yourself. And picking right is 80% of the job. You pick right, that's the first step. The second step is that you now have to do the right things in that marriage to make it work. Because you can pick the right person, and through your wrong actions, you can lose them. Because I've seen women married to very good men, and they drive them with bad attitudes. You become entitled because he treats you well. I've seen it happen over and over again. I've also seen women marry a man and move from being his wife to becoming his mother. And I can tell you, no man wants to marry his mother. The only thing they do. That's why they compare you to their moms and say, well, my mother did this. My mother did that. But when you become his mother, he doesn't want you. No man wants to marry his mother. So the question also is, how can I help this man if I'm called to help him? How can I help him gracefully? Because there's a way you can help someone and the person will feel that you are being condescending. So how do I manage it? So that, first of all, I do what I'm supposed to do. I do it with the right person, and I don't lose myself doing it. Because one of the things I've seen is women lose themselves in marriage. You forget who you were from the very beginning. You see, I'm going back to identity. It always goes back to who you are. Who you are, what you're sent to do, will determine who you go with. Now, for single ladies in the room, please, let me beg you. Do not marry a man who doesn't have a large enough vision to accommodate yours. Do not marry a man who is not secure enough to let you shine. Do not marry a man who will not only let you fly, but help you fly. The man must help you fly. He must be content to see you do well. You can't marry a man that's jealous of you. I've seen too many homes broken because people are in competition. If he's doing great and I'm doing great, we'll both be happy. And that's what God had in mind. So the person you go with is important. The person you go with, I've seen so many women get married and all their dreams dead. Dead because you married the wrong person. So the first question is, who are you? Second one, what are you sent to do? The third one is, who are you supposed to do it with? Don't marry a man who will be a lead over you, please. The next question, who has done it before? Whatever you are sent to do, I believe that there's someone who has done it before. God always, one of the reasons why we have the Bible is because God wants to show us the possibilities that are available to us. And he does that by showing us the lives of people who have done these things before. So you are a stay-at-home mom and you're thinking you're not going to do anything great. Look at Jael. She's there. You are very old and you're believing God for a child. Sarah is there. God brings a vision to you and you think you are too young. Mary is there. There's so many examples. You're trusting God for children. Hannah is there. You're marrying somebody who is a dreamer, always living by faith. Sarah is there. How did she do it? How? So God shows you mentors. There are people. Tonight someone said something very profound. She said people are templates. Oh, that struck me. You can actually look at a person's life and see the possibilities that are available to you. Now, whether you choose to follow that person is up to you, but there will be mentors all around you. And God doesn't just want you to stop at mentors around you. He wants you to also be a mentor. The next question. How can you sustain yourself when you're doing what you're called to do? And can you afford to do what you're called to do? This is a money question. Every woman, and let me tell you why I'm saying this, because the Bible says that if you don't work, you should not eat. Every woman must have money. It's a part of the covenant. Have your money. Every woman. You make better decisions when money is off the table. If you don't have money, you will marry for money and you will marry wrong. And the sad thing about marrying for money is that it's so much easier to just borrow it. You don't have to tie down your destiny with a man for money. Every woman must work. I'm seeing something that I think it's on social media. I was watching something and there were a few girls, they were having a conversation. With the craze of podcasts and everything, so they were having this podcast conversation, and the girl was saying, if you want to marry me and you can't afford to pay my bills, then you shouldn't talk to me at all. And like 3 other girls were on that podcast and they were supporting her. And I just kept thinking, why are you invalid? Why are they paying all your bills? Why? Because a man wants to marry. Are you not marrying him too? I don't understand. Another thing they do now is if you can't pay, especially in Africa. I know that here everybody has to, you have to, better hold your side. But in Africa, it's become a thing that if you want to take a girl on a date, you have to pay for her hair, pay for her nails, pay for her makeup, pay for her dress, then pay for the Uber to bring her there. I'm telling you. And honestly, it looks like people are like, oh, that's not. It's not. It's a very bad thing. A very bad thing, because if a man acquires you like property, he will not respect you. I've never seen anybody going out and tell their chair, oh, I'll be right back, I just need to go. No. You don't talk to your chair when you're leaving the house, do you? So why do you think that if a man acquires you like property, he will treat you any better than property? That's why a lot of them have 2 houses. So they have a house where they put the girl that they have acquired like property, and then they have another one that they do whatever they want to do. Sadly, even in the church. So everybody must be doing something to sustain themselves. And the last question. Let me run it through again. What's the first question? Good. Second question. Third question. Yes. Fourth question. Fifth question. How can you sustain yourself? So like I said, it's the money question. And the last question. What will your legacy be? What will you be remembered for? And every time I think about this, I think about the next generation. Somebody was saying recently, so I preached a message a couple of months, was it last year? I can't remember. I preached a message. I think it's on YouTube. The title of the message is, Are You a Mother or a Murderer? And the reason why sometimes when I meditate on scripture, God brings out certain pictures to me. And I was just thinking about those 2 prostitutes who had children, the women that went to Solomon. Because 2 of them had children, one of them slept on her child, and the child died, right? And then she realized the child was dead. Then she swapped with someone else. Now that one too had her own issue, because you are sleeping. They carried your child. You did not wake up. They changed your child. they put a dead child beside you, you do not wake up. In the morning, that means you slept through the night. Who has a baby and sleeps through the night? You slept through the night. You slept with abandon. And then in the mornings when you realize that somebody had changed your baby. So I was meditating on that scripture, and I was just thinking, these two women, I don't even get them. I don't understand them. How do you sleep and roll and you, when you have a baby, you don't sleep. I wanted to say you don't sleep. Let me just say you don't sleep. Secondly, if your baby if you have a baby, I don't know about the rest of you, but every second, I was checking. You put your hand from time to time. You check whether their chest is going up and down. Right? So how do you sleep? And then you now roll over on your child. Not that you rolled over by mistake and immediately realized I rolled on something. You would have felt something. You slept and you slept on the baby with your full weight. Maybe she got up to go and pee. Then realized her child was dead. And then came up with the crazy thought that any baby works. Are you seeing where I'm going with this? So it's not even about the child. So there's no nurturing in your heart to say another child, even when you have a miscarriage, another pregnancy can't replace the baby you lost. So how do you just kill your child and take the child and go and swap the child and say any baby? It doesn't work that way. From the minute God places a child on the inside of you, you start to intercede and say, Lord, who will this child be? You become like Samson's mother. You start to ask, tell us how we may raise this child. You start to ask for revelations about this child's destiny. It's such an intimate thing. It's not something that your child is dead, you just go and take another one. And then you, on the other hand, until you were sleeping, they took your child. How do you, if you are sleeping with a child, if someone as much as moves, up. You see, when I was reading that thing, I kept saying, how is this happening? And then the Lord said to me, before you go all self-righteous, this is what people are doing every day. You are asleep and the world is changing your babies. And you're not doing anything about it. Why? Because you are asleep. Some of you are even suffocating your babies. They come and say, oh, I feel in my heart that God is asking me to. And you say, no, you're going to be a doctor. Don't tell me that. You are a doctor. And the child is like, Mom, I don't want to hear it. You have literally suffocated that child until that child dies. And the only thing living is you living through them. You being everything you wanted to be that you could not be. And so the Lord took me back to that scripture that says, train up a child in the way that he should go. And God said to me, not the way you want to go. Not even the way you think they should go. Not the way you wanted to go, that you couldn't go, so you now want to go through them. He said, train up a child in the way they should go. Meaning that we need to go back to God to ask. And the reason why I'm saying this is because your children are your legacy. The reason why the church is not extinct today is because we have a generation of children who still love the Lord and are still serving the Lord. So when I hear people say things like, no, you shouldn't tell. So after I preached that message, I got a lot of hate messages. You can't tell people what to do with their children. You can't tell people, in fact, because I said, one of the things I found out is God said, be fruitful and multiply. So if you say you don't want to have babies, it's anti-covenant. And they came for me. Why will you tell people, please, if people don't want to have babies, let them not have babies. You're not the ones that can tell people how to have babies. You can baby. If they don't want to baby, don't baby. I'm like, okay, let's keep doing this. After a while, there will be nothing left on earth. What will your legacy be? Your children. Your children. God says he wants godly seed out of marriage. Not well-behaved children. Godly seed. That's children that have the nature of God. What does that mean? Your children will be on fire for God. The Bible says your children will answer the enemy at the gate. The enemy. Before their children are 5, they know every word from their own religion. and you say King James is too hard for your children to learn. Go and check. The children, the enemies, they are teaching their children that you can ready to die for what you believe, bomb anybody, and die in the process. You know, there were these two children that my husband and I were paying their school fees when they were much younger. So we had this guy that used to, so we have what we call, I don't know, they are security guards, but they call them May guards in Nigeria. And I think it's a very apt name because they may guard you and they may not. So the guy was from the north and he was Muslim. So he had two children. And so my husband and I used to pay their school fees. Then eventually the mom had another one, a little boy. And so one day we're having a conversation. So the first two, we used to bring them to church. You know, they started hearing the gospel and all of that. They even gave their lives to Christ, and at least that's what my husband believes. But me, somewhere at the back of my mind, I wasn't sure. Because when they go home, I don't know what their parents tell them. You see, let me tell you, as a mother, what you teach your children is different from what anybody teaches them anywhere, in church, in school, anywhere. Those three Hebrew boys, I keep asking myself, who was their mother? Who was Daniel's mother? That Daniel will be in the midst of all of those things and say, I will not defile myself with the king's meat. If I have to starve, I'll starve. What did their mothers tell them that they were bold enough to tell them that, oh king, we're not careful to answer you in this matter? If you say we'll not bow, even if we know our God is able to save us, even if he's not going to save us, we will still not bow. Do what you will. They increase the fire. They say, king, we are not going to bow. Don't bother. Don't even bother threatening. We're not going to bow. What did they tell them? What did they tell these boys that even though they were slaves, what did Jochebed tell Miriam? That if a 5-year-old girl was able to tell Pharaoh's daughter that, do you need a nursemaid that will bring you someone? She kept her family together. What did her mother tell her? Our firstborn cannot even look out for our younger ones. What did they tell Miriam? Oh, they're just children. What did they tell Miriam? That's why I say the Bible is so, you can't miss it if you read the word. Because the template is there. So God said to me, you are here saying, how can they do this, how can they? But that's what you're doing every day. Now, the second woman did something, which I hope we will all learn from. They said when she woke up in the morning, she took her baby to the light. She took her baby to the light. And she said, this is not my child. We'll take our children to the light of the word. And when you bring your children to the light of the word, you say, this is not my child. I remember my second daughter. So I had my second daughter, and then she started preschool. In Nigeria, you do preschool, then you do nursery, then you do start primary school. So by the time she started nursery school, her teacher said something to me. She said, every time I drop her in school, she would sit in that place, not talk to anybody, not say anything, till I come back to get her. So her teacher called me one day and said, I think she's a slow learner, or maybe she has a disability, we may need to check. I didn't say anything. Then the head of the school called me and said to me, it looks like, does she talk at home? Are you sure she's not, she might have a learning. I knew where they were going. They were trying to either say she was autistic or one thing, they would always label. So I didn't say anything to her. I took my child home. And then I started praying about it. And the Lord said to me, he said, your children will be taught of the Lord and great will be their peace. So I said, a child that is taught of the Lord cannot but be intelligent. If Jesus is your lesson teacher, until you go no book, I'm sorry. you have to be intelligent. And so I started speaking to her. I said, you have the mind of Christ. Christ was to write an exam, will he fail? You have the mind of Christ. You are intelligent, you are smart. And then I asked God, I said, what else would I do? He said, pull out of that school. You see, it's not just to pray. God will give you actionable steps. He said, take out of that school. Because when you bring her home and tell her she has the mind of Christ, they take her to school and tell her you are a slow learner. So they are canceling out what you are doing. You have to be intentional. Now, that child, that same child, Davida Okonkwo, when we go to school, prize giving day, best in English, Davida Okonkwo. Best in math, Davida Okonkwo. Best in science, Davida Okonkwo. Best in Mandarin, Davida Okonkwo. So they tell her to stand. You know when you're doing presentation, they just say stand because there's no need going back and forth. Why? Because I took my baby to the light. They were about to change my child. I said, this is not the child. And definitely not this one that I prayed for 8 years before God gave me. No, not this one. Not this one. God was very clear that this child will be known all over the world as the one Jehovah has blessed. Straight A+ kid. Low learner. What will be your legacy? Will you allow the world determine what you leave behind? Or are you going to take charge and determine what your legacy will be? The next generation is counting on us. We have to pattern for them, but we also have to pray for them. You cannot be a woman and not be an intercessor. You can't. How? How are you not praying? You will pray for your husband. You pray for your children. You pray for yourself. You will pray for your nephews, nieces. You will pray for your in-laws. You may even pray about your in-laws, but you'll be an intercessor. You will definitely pray. So there are certain things as a woman you can't even play with. You can't do marriage without prayer. Oh no, the reason why you are fighting so much with your husband is because instead of you to go and get strategy from God, you think you know it all. So you say, let me just explain it to him, he'll get it. No, he will not get it. He will argue even more. So you will go to God to get strategy. I remember when I first got married, and I'll close with this. When I first got married, I had this funny habit of, like I said, because I was very introverted. I had this funny habit of, if I'm upset about something, I'll just sulk and start acting up. You know when you're acting up, when you say, I will not keep malice, but you're keeping malice. You are not really talking to the person, but you're talking to him. Will you eat? What will you eat? And he says, he's asking, what's wrong? You say, nothing. Should anything be wrong? When you start doing all those funny things. So I had that very funny habit. So about a month into our marriage, or maybe even less, maybe like 3 weeks into our marriage, but I was upset. I can't remember what about, because like I said, because I'm very introverted, I'm also a perfectionist. So the little things get to me in a very different way. My husband is it's okay, it's not that deep. It was deep, very deep, and I kept digging deeper. Because I could not understand why he would mess up places and not pick up after him. That everything was a big deal. And so I remember that day I was very upset, and I went to pray about him. So I was praying and I was complaining, God, the man you gave me, Lord, look at you, have to do something. You have to do something. And then the Lord said to me, he said, you've been praying about your husband for weeks now, and nothing has changed. When are you going to start praying for him? Wow. Was a light bulb moment. Then I realized that there's a difference between praying about your husband and praying for your husband. And so God said to me, rather than complain, because that's all you are doing, whining, murmuring, and grumbling. But when he asks you, will you marry me? You say yes. So now it's me that gave you the husband. When are you going to stop grumbling and murmuring in my ear and start telling me what you want to see? And so I started praying for him. I became intentional about calling the things I wanted to see. So rather than saying, God, I don't like the fact that he's so messy, I would say my husband is very organized. And I would declare over him. And I would look for scriptures that Moses was this, I called that Moses, Abraham, everybody. I called everybody out of my husband. I was very intentional. Even things like self-control, even things like he will learn to dwell with me with understanding so that his prayers will not be hindered. I learned to pray. And that's one of the easiest ways. Another reason why prayer is so important? Because whether you like it or not, men are not externally motivated. You may learn this the hard way, but let me save you the years of struggle. Men are not externally motivated. That's why the Bible says that the heart of the king is in God's hands. Because it's God that controls him. This thing is decoration. It's for balance. It's not for hearing. Men, the one men have. No, it's not. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. This thing is for balance. It's not for hearing. Men don't hear from here. Men hear from here. So the more you nag, the more this thing doesn't work. So what you do is you go to God, and you tell God what you want to see, and then God starts to stir it within him. Then he will come to you and tell you, you know, the other day I was just praying, I feel like I should start doing this. And your mind, the first thing you want to say is, I don't understand. Something that be there. No. You'll be very gracious because you and God have had a conversation. What you say to him now is that he's such a wise man, which is why you trust his leadership. So you say to him, you're such a wise man. This is why I love you and I trust your leadership. Who would have come up with this idea? Only you. And you walk away with wisdom. So, in closing, please remember, it starts with identity, but it ends with legacy. Who you are is important, but what you leave behind for your children to become is almost more important. Were you blessed?